Good morning. So, in this video is I'm honestly very nervous to make it. Um, first video that I've put on YouTube, so there's that as well. But then also has, personal stories about my life in it, and just testimonies. So let's get into it. So, my testimony is one many mistakes, many, right? So at first, like a lot of people, I didn't know God. I was in a mode of, hey, what can I do today? How can I feel my pleasure? How can I entertain myself today? You know what I mean? And like individualism over anything else, right? What can I get out of this world? You know what I mean? So, honestly, I think the biggest thing of it, an educational career, still currently doing it, but I was the quote unquote innocent kid. You know what I mean? Like the kid that you look over and be like, oh, he can't do anything bad, or he doesn't know what anything we're talking about right now, right? And for the most part, I mean, yes, yeah, that was very absolutely true. But that wasn't the case for everything, at home, I was a lot more sinful. I was, at school I cussed, at home I did too. It's just, it was normal by this point in my life. I watched porn for years. I mean, I think I started at like 11. And it was not a good life. I treated my parents horribly. I was lazy. I very much was addicted to a lot of stuff. Like games, like video games, or porn, or lust, right? Bringing up lust, right? I looked at women with lust all the time. Even some of my family members, you know what I mean? Like true, just people that you would never think, right? My coworkers, just every time I got, it's just kind of just those little things there, And my life was absolutely, I was in the hands of the devil. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was to the point where I didn't realize how far I was gone until I was brought back, right? So it was about 7 months ago, right, that God really showed me what I was doing. I was abruptly woken up by it, and it something that really got me is not the fact that I was a lukewarm Christian or I didn't live my life for Christ, but the fact that I wasn't a Christian whatsoever. I was a child of Satan, and you know what? Each day that I continued to do it in, it just got worse. By the end, I was like, oh, I was so much in lust. I was just pouring every day, and it was just the worst time of my life. And about 6 or 7 months ago, as I mentioned before, he brought me back. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. Sitting on the back porch, I was talking to one of my online friends, and I sent a picture, I was like 14 maybe, about that, give or take. And the answer I got was really devastating. It was really devastating. It kind of broke my heart, to be honest with you, and it just kind of made me push towards God. You know what I mean? It really truly made me be so low to the ground that in my own life that I had to look up, and I'm so grateful for that person. I forgive him, and whatnot. And I really do try to pray for him when I can, but it was tough, but in the end, I honestly think it was needed because it brought me back to a spot where I want to be, where I want to stay for the rest of my life. You know, so yeah. Pretty much now, I'm gonna say thank God, you know, that I'm here where I am right now, that I have lived, that I have been woken up today, and I've given the grace and the mercy that He has. But something I want to talk about, right, is what John 3:16, John 3:16 to John 3:17. You know, for God so loved the world, that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in Him should have everlasting life, right? And those words mean more to me now than they ever did. You know, that God, somebody who, you know, doesn't need to do all that, came down in a form of man to die for me. You know, it's just like it's ultimate love. You know what I mean? The ultimate act of love, and it really got me for the first few months. And it still does. You know what I mean? Because that somebody would be willing to die for me voluntarily. So thank God for that. And yeah. So my mission with this channel, right, it is to ultimately glorify God with everything I do, right? Every sentence, every word, every letter I say, to glorify Him, right? But to talk about ideas of Christ, right? Not just, you know, Christian, but non-Christian, you know? Like hey, you know, what if God, you know, is all loving, why would he kill people? Or, you know, just stuff like that. Just to, you know, put videos about that, or stuff like that. The basic concepts of Christianity, right?